Hello, everyone, and happy Friday. I'm going to give you a preview of what I have been really busy at. I noticed that the lighting is off a little. Let me just make it down a little bit darker. I look so okay. So I am going to be sharing, and just so you guys know, if you don't know too much about me, um, I am going to, let's see, let's do this sideways, side by side, so I can share everything. Let me flip this the other way. I am using my Zoom. I think this will be pretty cool and add some different backgrounds. Probably, yeah. Okay. And let me see which screen I want to share. So I'll start off in the lowest level. Okay, so as many of you know, I am a teacher, and before I was a teacher, I was a student, and I was a student of a pilot program in downtown Boston. It was called New Horizons Academy. And like many of us learn, we just learn to learn. This was actually based on mastery learning, and it's where I learned the most in school. I would consider that I learned more there than I did in college, than I did in high school, and I did in elementary school. It was a junior high. And the program was so great because what they did is they did a pilot program inside an inner city school. I went to Martin Luther King Junior High, and our school was pretty rough. It was a downtown Boston school, and it wasn't known for its education. So Dr. Driscoll decided that he wanted to start a program, and he got permission from the city to do it. And they got only teachers inside that cared. And it made us take responsibility for our learning. So, what they would do at the very beginning of a term is they would say, okay, you have to do this, and you're going to have this many quizzes. And if you don't do homework, you can't take the quiz. And each quiz is worth points towards your graduation. So it made us take responsibility for learning, and it put learning in our hands and not our parents and not anyone else's. So, in order for us to even be eligible to take any test, we had to do our homework. And the homework was really interesting because we used to read a lot of the stories in English. And then after we read the stories, we would analyze them, write about them. And the last thing we would do would be seeing the movies. So this is really kind of how I am creating, and I'm not creating just like English. I'm creating to make sure that the students master what they learn. And I can see the results because I have students around the world. I also have groups of neurodiverse students. Neurodiverse students usually have a mixture of ADD, ADHD. I have legally blind students, and they're in group classes. And we also have autistic. And if you've known anything about autistic children, they tend to be very blunt, and they don't mean what they say sometimes. They don't have a filter. And I've got them all getting along, and I got they even raise their hands, and they want to be included in the class, and they're excited about the class. And you really need something that's out of the box. It can't be just look at the book and read. It won't work. So this is what takes me so long to produce my interactive story lessons and probably almost everything I do because I create it. I listen to the feedback from the teachers, from the students, and I have a student based learning classroom. It is not my decision, it is their decision. It's very democratic. It's the same way, like I said, that I grew up in the school program that I learned the most from. And also, I'm working with Finnish teachers. I've worked with them before, and that also is student based. So what you do is you kind of go with the flow, what the kids want, and you just make sure that the international SEFR levels are there, the international standards of Common Core curriculum standards are there, and the most important standards that really make it important to me is the SEL. So social emotional learning is very important, and you have to take into effect. You've got to give them chances to speak. You've got to give them a chance to feel included. If they're in a group class, even if they're in a private class, and you just got to be really sensitive of how we approach them because it's the same way that our parents approached us. And I remember I was really close to my teachers. I do love my mom and my dad, but I think I was closer to my teachers because I came from a very big household and we get lost in the mix of four kids. So at school, um, I tended to do very well. I remember in first grade we had a school talent show, and I was on TV because I wrote a play in first grade. And I wrote the play to include everybody in the classroom. And it was about how turtles got their backs. It was Lionel. And they called me and they said, "Can you be our mistress of ceremonies?" And I was like, okay. And there's actually TV footage of me probably when I was about 9 or 10 years old. I think so. Yeah, maybe first grade, second, it could have been second grade. Um, but I just remember my mother was very upset because they put makeup on me and she was very much against makeup. So, enough about me. Let's go back in. And I wanted to show you, I did start showing you this last week, but it was not final phased and it was in my final testing. So, let's take a look at this and I'm going to show you. We're going to take a look at, it says that I am sharing. I guess I'm sharing this one, pre-A1, and this is for our basic learners. Pre-A1, A1 is the earliest beginning learners, and since I teach a lot of group classes, I like to group two levels together because I have students that range from age 5 to 8. The next group will be ages 9 to 10 or 11, and the last group will be like 11 to 13. So I still have my divisions into the three levels, but now I'm kind of putting the levels together, and that's really good for diversity and diversified learning because it kind of hits everybody and nobody feels left out. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Hopefully you can see it. And we have our menu here, which is our drop-down hamburger menu. And we start, of course, with our vocabulary. I had them separated, but then I realized they belong together. And kids always like awards, so we are doing this. And I've changed where before it used to always give them an award. I only put it at the end because I have a tendency of I do have those kids that go like with a million. So I didn't want them to always freeze. And to make the learning easier for you as teachers to follow through, I started adding steps. So step one, of course, this is not a Bible. That's kind of a guide for you. I've been a classroom trained teacher, so I kind of know it by the back of my hand, and I have to make sure that you understand it as well. So we have step one. It is look, read, and answer, and there's sentences there to help them. And if you want to look at it, you can look at it with the students as well. And look and read, click the horse, describe the horse, read the question, and then click to turn. And then you have other tips like click the check mark, they self-check, and they award. Like I said, autonomy for the students is very important to me. I like them to feel like they're the boss. So you could, if you want, ask the blue, is it blue? And then they can answer. And then when they click it, they can click and it tells them. And then they can, and so the first sentence is it big? I leave this picture small because if I do this, it's going to say it's big, but it's not. It's small. And then you can get a closer look at it and you can discuss it and let them go crazy with it. And then again, these are just some basic yes, no questions. Then we're going to go into Dragon Say, and I love Genially, and it's always updating. So I'm always following what can I do next. Call it my ADD, ADHD, I guess. I think Jillian says I have ADHD. I probably do because I get bored pretty quickly, just like the kids. Sorry, technology made us this way. And again, we have some directions here simplified for you. Step one, then we have step two. You can turn it around. You can flip the card. It'll give you the other directions. And then here is really cute because when it's wrong, good try. I don't have to keep repeating it. When it's right, it'll just sit in its place, and then when they're done, it's going to give them the final award. So you understand that, and then of course we have these to encourage them, and I have them add, so they can add how many they have. And at the end there is a certificate, so you can tell them that's their present. And then we're going to go to the next one, and again this is vocab. So I always begin lessons with teaching them vocab because how can you teach a story if they don't understand what they're reading? So vocabulary for me is very important. So here I added the element of the click and do, and it's going to open it up.
Strong.
So we are looking at nouns and adjectives, and you can see the picture. Again, sometimes it'll open because this is a randomizer. We might
Horse.
miss some of them, and that happens. So first they're going to click and make it
Be
round,
magic.
and then they're going to be moving it in. And if it's right, it stays. If it is wrong, it'll pop out
Good try.
and go back. And then at the end, of course, we want them to produce a sentence. And the sentence is finally say, I am, and they can decide, I am magical, I am strong, I have a family, but they come up with it. And as long as that little sentence starter is there, that really helps them. As they get higher and more involved grades, it changes. So this is my pre A1. And then you're going to go here, and we have different types of stories in the vocabulary. We have a word wall. In our comprehension, we do have their choice of word wall and bamboozle. They love bamboozle. There's a great new game out called Plinkett, and they get to drop, and it does some great amount of points. And for 30 days, you can use it free as well. If you don't have a paid bamboozle, then you just have the free versions, which is great. And then we have Blaze Saves the Day. So they're choosing it, and it goes where they are going to go. And then over here, we have a little bit of science, labeling diagrams. We have math because they're adding their points. Here again, they're labeling and matching elements. So they learn so much about Chinese New Year. And then if you want to, you can play the video for them. If not, that's okay. But the videos are there. This is what takes these lessons so long to produce. And then let's look at, this is the pre-A1. And then you can go into the A2 B1, and it's a little bit more. Their words are a little bit different. There's magical, not magic. They're going to use it. Then they have different things to do. Here they're going to click a pinata, and you don't let the boys click because the boys have a tendency when they click one, they go to one. They just click it all, and the candy goes everywhere. And I have to tell them, no, 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 don't do that. Just one, so I can divide it between the 4 or 5 kids that are in the group. And then at the end, of course, it explodes and gives them candy, just like they're at the carnival. Again, you have little steps here. Step 1, step 2, it's magic. And then here, their sentences are longer. If I were a fire horse, I've got to separate that. I would. And then you have them think. And I make sure to add a lot of critical thinking. And I was just watching a talk, and they were talking about even the SATs have changed where they're just getting basic questions. Fact, answer. Fact, answer. And inference and predictions are up at the top in Bloom's taxonomy. You want these kids to infer. You want them to try to predict what's going to happen next because that's going to get their higher level of thinking. Here we have the words, and when they do find the words, then let's see. Can I find a word while I'm here? I don't know. There's 3 levels of the puzzle. So for the highest level, they're going to find diagonal words. In the lower levels, it's going to be up and down, and it will appear as soon as we find the word. And as you can see, I'm having a little difficulty finding the word. And used to be one of my favorite games. It still is one of my favorite games. So we have shiny. Let's see if I can find why for shiny. Okay, is there an N around it? No, 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 no. Oh, there's lots of N's here. There's knee, and still not shiny. Um, hmm. Bear with me. See, I don't have all the answers. Here we go. We have family. Okay, so family, and then family pops up. I encourage them to make their sentences using these words. That way, they're always using the words even before they get to the story. It sounds monotonous, but trust me, go slow. Let them master. When you go quickly in a lesson and it's over in one lesson, that goes into what's called short term memory. They don't really gain as much from that, and it doesn't last as long. So you won't see that much progress. My students are actually writing stories now. I don't want them to, but they can. And that's why you see some of them with our newer stuff, the fact base, animal lessons, and the biomes. They're actually making their own characters and stories. Adjective time, the fire horse is, and then they can do these as well. And again, it has that new drop and drag feature, and they just have
Good
to.
try.
Good try. See, I don't even know it. I'm just doing mistakes on purpose, but then when it just goes in, it sits. So once we get through this is probably about one lesson I spend on vocabulary, and I'll go into adjectives because it kind of goes along with the vocabulary as well, and they're using them. And then here again, we're going into describing. Then we're going to go into our story. And before we even start the story, there's lots of questions that you want to ask them. And it takes time. And here they're going to have the elements. The elements will pop up for them. And then we're going to go on and we're going to go to making predictions and inferences. Then we're going to go to step two. Step two is they are going to start labeling what they know and read line by line. I fixed that, and the last time I showed it to you, it wasn't working. Now you're going to click here,
Blaze saves the day.
shut it off. It is lit. So Blaze saves the day, and then older readers will read it by themselves. You click again, it disappears. Done. And then different levels show different things. And if you want to get rid of these, it's very easy. You just click step two, it disappears. Step one disappears. So you can still see the whole photo. And then this is just their story. It's going in, it's animated, but it's not as animated as it used to be because I want them to focus more on what they're supposed to do in the task. And as we go through these, we did learn nouns and adjectives. So I had fun. I made a nouns and adjectives worksheet. And what that does is you explain to them to underline a noun. So they're going to underline a noun. Well, miss, I forgot what the noun is. Okay, there it is. Who's that? Who are these people? So they know it's people, it's animals, and they all love this animal. This animal was really happy made them really happy. And if you find that it's difficult for them, then don't worry. You can help out. So what I can do for them is I'll go, okay, I'll help you out. And then I will underline the noun and ask them, what describes this noun? What describes the soil? Oh, we got croup here because it's an older. In case you didn't know, I actually learned this after creating this lesson. That is the croup. I wanted things that body parts that are not as common for the higher levels. And again, this is, you can go in here, you can highlight reading as they read. I only started that because I got so sick of saying, read, read. Can you read? And that's usually with my ESL students that are non-native and no long and they are not they have to be like you have to drag it out of them. So I just got tired of saying it. So I added that there and they're following it. And I do have some kids that follow with pens as well. And again, you go into the second part. You won't have to use the grammar every slide. That's just a reminder. You can just close that off after. And then here's your activities. You flip it over and there's always comprehension, which is the basic comprehension, which they're doing on the SAT now, but we always have that critical thinking. I have to have that critical thinking. I will not go without my critical thinking. And of course, I had to add a necklace to Tinny. They talked about the villagers. They talked about what the villagers need. And then, of course, we go right into that action. And this is his magic power. He stomped his glowing hoof and boom, it started to rain and things began to grow. And we asked them again in step two, how did they feel about that? Make inferences and what is your favorite flower and why is it important that we have rain? So again, there's science in here, there's math, there's English. It's a basic lesson. It's kind of a little ecosystem. So it's not about racing through in 25 minutes. I would assume my lessons take about 90 minutes and I can do it in two 45-minute classes, sometimes longer if the kids talk longer. If it's a group class, they go longer, but one-on-one, I can make it go maybe for three 25-minute classes or two 25 minutes. And then after that, they're pretty bored. And then, of course, we have our beautiful fireworks. Again, there is their video if you want them to watch it. Here is our games. And I'm telling you, this game is so much fun. Plinko. And then we have the matching the diagram. And I had to write place here because as you will, they were like getting caught. So there's the croup, there's the tail. Come here, tail. So as you can see how they light up behind them, it's really cute. And then we have their mane. Just give me a second to take it over. And then their hoofs. And then here you go. Well done. Tells them well done. And then if you need any help, just feel free to step in and have your students read for you. because at this level they can read. So remember, it's not about speed, it's about mastery. And mastery learning is where you're going to create the most memories. Then we have the matching the elements to the horses. They talk about horses, which one's their favorite. And then we have roll a story for the older kids. They can write, but you may have weaker kids. So I actually placed the homework here as well. And easy is the pre A1, A1. Normal would be A1, A2. Hard is A2, B1. And I can show you, this is another reason it took a lot. We have our workbook. Let's go look at the workbook. This is the higher level. Oh, sorry, I hit the wrong one. This is for you. You can create, like I said, they earn a certificate in it. And let me just see if I have to see this. I learn things every day. Yes, I've got to go back in and fix that. We have flashcards. They're not the greatest flashcards. There are flashcards. I swear there are flashcards. This is the certificate. It's not all the certificate here. I am not going to, and then here I have reduced the story to one size story. So it's not so much for them to print and it's all on one page and you can send it for them to review it. And let me go over here because somehow, as you can see, I have anyway. I have the cover image. This should come up right. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, there's your cover image for your marketing. Here is our workbook. And like I said, this is pre-A1, A1. And it's not just one page workbook. It goes through, let me get down. It's going to go down. There you go. And then I like this one, they can actually color and match. And then we also have their flashcards. And let's look at their flashcards. So their flashcards are really cute. And this is not as easy as it looks. AI does help, but it doesn't mean you don't have to keep telling it to do it again. There's the video link. Unfortunately, sorry, in China, they don't work, but they do work here. And then we have the game. Of course, I choose Bamboozle because it's the most fun. And you can see I use the same images for Bamboozle. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask me. I'm always here to help you.